All right, welcome back. You're watching on Uongozi today, and this is what you missed if you had not joined us at the top of the hour. The Senate then and the Senate now, looking before they had all the opportunities to interrogate some of the issues. Now they're actually interrogating on the floor of the House. Are all these crocodile tears, as one comedian will put it, it is crocodile. The crocodile is a crocodile tears that we are seeing from the senators. That has been the debate there. And we showed you also the issue of the salaries as well is on the table. We shall look at it intensely. And also the TikTok time bomb right now, which is the Gen Z, where it has brought us to this particular moment of the country where we are travailing and we are in labor pains for a new rebirth of a nation. And this is where stand measures will be taken, especially what is in the offing regarding also the reshuffling or maybe also dissolving of the cabinet. That has been also the debate. And the Excellencies, Honorable Tama, has been missing in action. We'll run you by that story as well and where they are. Most of them, they are greatly shy to appear in public to comment on some of the silent issues regarding also the finance bill, some that have been targeted. But I want just to go back to Senate here. We have Dr. Law. You wanted to say something on this particular Senate. I didn't give you that particular opportunity. And you want to have, is it a rejoinder?
No, not really a rejoinder, yes. Perhaps just a restatement of what the situation is. When Professor was talking about the upper house and the lower house, this is a conversation that we have missed to contextualize in this country. In any constitutional design where of necessity power is dispersed between the national and a federal system or a devolved system, the bicameral system is part of the architecture in order to provide checks and balances. Checks and balances because then the house, the bigger numbers, is the lower house attending to certain specific issues, but the house with smaller numbers is the upper house, or essentially having the exercise of converting into a court as an impeachment court or the presidency and so on. So the relationship we have in Kenya is one that was interfered with in terms of what the Bomas draft was all about and what the members of parliament did in Naivasha, which Mheshimiwa Kiro was talking about earlier. That we simply interfered with the design of devolved structure, where essentially the relationship between the Senate and the National Assembly ought to have been better outlined to the extent that bills as of necessity equally of great importance have to have the upper house concurrence as well.
So the mutilation thereof is a far cry from what was desired from the beginning with the
when
Obama
we speak
draft.
of Senate, we should also be able to understand that it's a badly crafted Senate because our constitutional design was also interfered with. And so what we have is a shambolic part. Just like our chapter 6, the intentions of the framers of the constitution was interfered with again in Naivasha with chapter 6, and that's why we've never gotten out of that.
There were thugs who derailed the whole process. They were thugs.
Infiltrated.
The
infiltrated our constitutional moment to water down. And I don't want to use the word bastardize, but they watered down some of the critical constitutional pillars that would have ensured checks and balances.
Sure. So was it an arrest or there was an abduction?
In this actually this was an abduction.
Because in this country we always come up with semantics now that we actually splitting hairs. Was this an abduction from your own assessment? There was an abduction of the constitutional moment,
they abducted the constitution and disappeared with it to Naivasha, only to imagine the court of
arresting. It's nothing like abduction. There are different ways of arresting, depending on who is being arrested and how they are behaving and how they must be arrested, including the constitutional moment. That was how it was.
Yet the only thing we need to be told is the reasons why we are being arrested. So when you are not being given reasons, you are being abducted. Because somebody is disappearing with the way they disappeared with the constitution.
Was there any blindfolding that was done? That
absolutely. Members of parliament were blindfolded.
But they were given.
Some of them arrived. Even Baba, he arrived and he was told, now this thing is no longer about parliamentary, it's presidential. He said, okay, you know, he agreed to something that had been bastardized in Naivasha.
He seemed to have gone through some chambers that now, even there was some cognitive dissonance on what he was agreeing on.
But no one has explained the exact moment of arrest, whether the explanation was given or not. You only
That's
hear
what I'm saying, it's
somebody,
abduction.
yes, somebody says it's abduction, but there could be arrest.
No.
Not just abduction.
As long as we
because
see
you've been given the reason why you have been arrested.
The reasons cannot come after. So as long as there were no reasons.
If I find you in your car, Professor, and I tell you I need to arrest you because we want to make an investigation, is that not a reason?
No, you tell me.
It's a reason.
You tell me to
Maybe
drive.
you don't agree with it, but it's a
me,
reason.
All right.
I have a car. Tell me to drive with you to the police station. Don't abduct me into yours. Yeah, I have a car. Tell me.
That
Come
is
with me.
All right.
Drive ahead.
Some comic relief there in
It's like
the
when
political
a
affairs of a country.
traffic policeman
Anyway, I
wants to
don't
arrest you and they
agree.
come
Let's
into your
move
car.
forward, but I don't agree with what you are trying to explain.
Let's buckle down to it right now.
Yes.
So looking at the standard today, the Last Supper, and the cabinet meeting that was there yesterday, it seems there's going to be quite a seismic shift in terms of the governance of this country. For the longest time, everyone has been calling for a reshuffle, calling out the incompetence of the cabinet secretary, that the president has had his coteries of friends as ministers, and this also has been to his disadvantage somehow, and now it has really exposed his underbelly, especially with the governance of this country. And everyone has been crying, saying even some of the ministers that have been implicated in corruption, this is the providential time for the president to take action. Are we going to see some mergers, as we've highlighted in the news? Are we going to see the reduction of the cabinet secretaries, as it is being deemed to be happening? Let's just begin with the Kipruto Rapkirwa.
Yeah, Dibal, at times there is no sufficient time to rationalize some of the decisions that ought to be made. First of all, I was proposed to the president, just don't do it a shovel. Dissolve this cabinet.
In its entirety?
In its entirety. Create that moment of uncertainty to everybody. Of course, except the deputy president, because he cannot dissolve that particular position. Now, in the process, take time off and ask yourself what is bedeviling your government, starting with the head of public service. If I was to suggest anything to the president, he should have a new head of public service who is experienced in issues of governance, administration, and issues of management of public affairs. In that way, we will have the nerve center that is supposed to run the public service, such that ministers come in at an opportune moment. Number two, he should ask himself, how many ministers do I need? 15, in my opinion, is too low. He can still maintain the same 20 ministers or 21, whatever is the figure provided for in the Constitution, but restructure the arm that deals with the PSS, so that the principal secretary should not go beyond 30. Because we also need a system that is responsive to the needs of the day. Trimming ministries to 15 is just doing something for a show. Then they'll be so ballooning by having so many PSS and heads of certain departments that are not properly designed. But most important is to see how we can reduce theft, wastage, and pilferage. In my own honest opinion, it will reduce almost to the extent of 1 trillion shillings that has been going wasted. 3, it should also improve ways of collecting this revenue, because systems are down almost from County Hall, NTSA, even KRA, so that when somebody wants to file certain operations for purposes of giving money to the government, those operations don't take place because systems are down. And these systems are not down because of lack of capacity. It is because people bring them down so that they create a loophole for theft. The third issue that I think the president should do is to improve in terms of delegations that go abroad. The ILO meeting that took place the other day, I'm told 90 people from the ministry responsible for that component of ILO took 90 people as delegations. The last time I knew, whether I was going to ICO, whether I was going to FAO, a delegation should be maximum 3 people, the minister plus 2 or 3. Because every embassy, like now our embassy in Rome, will give you the necessary capacity to deal with those issues. As you get there, a good ambassador, like Madete, who was our ambassador at some stage, will brief you on the issues that are emanating, whether it is ILO, whether it is IFAD, or any other institution or World Food Program within Rome. Such that by the time you get to all those organizations as courtesy call, you know exactly the issues to canvass. Otherwise, a delegation of more than 10, 15 people getting out of this country is not only expensive, but totally superfluous, because most of those people will be doing a lot of shopping in the period that we have meetings in various places. So these are areas I feel the president should be able to do certain things for purposes of reducing the wastage that we feel. But because you see, we have also to be fair to the president. He's also balancing his politics for the next election, or even for him to survive the intervening period. Because you see, the moment that you saw in the street, my worry, and I kept on saying, is that was the president going to be ejected from the office? And the answer was almost yes. After ejection from the office, what is the transition to a new political order? Something that I've not been able to convince myself that the best way is to eject him from the office. But being elected out of the office in the next election, that should be my desire. But my desire should not supersede national stability, because I strongly believe this country needs the stability that we have. So for him to rationalize, please, Mr. President, you don't have to reduce your ministers to 15. But the most important thing, once he has whether 18, 15, 21, or the same number as he has today, he must also step back and allow ministers to work with the departments under which they run. Because the main problem that I've seen with our president is that he wants to be a minister in all those ministries and make the minister feel almost outboxed out of the position as minister. We make mistakes as ministers. I made several mistakes, but you should be given time to correct your own mistakes. That is when you instill confidence in the people under you.
Right, but if you're saying that maybe he should rethink on the paring down of the figures to 15, he should leave it at where it is. There is the issue of the mergers that is maybe calling the necessity of reducing also these ministers as well. If there are mergers, why then do we need more ministers than we have departments that they should be maybe oversighting?
But merging, really, allow me to say this, merging should not just be done by just pulling this department and the other department. The way the government dispatch operates is that there must be reason why you must combine certain ministry or certain department with another one, so that there is a bit of synergy. Otherwise, it's not just pulling labor and you put something else, housing within labor, and just to make it small. Make it small, but effective.
Right, but evidently we've been having duplicities of functions. If you interrogate deeply, you could see that calls for merger. This has been a long overdue even from the previous administration. Let's hear from Barack.
I could speak a lot more about convergence and overlap rather than duplication as such. Yes, you'll find certain meeting points. If you think things environment, things water, you find that there are going to be common points here and there. You think wildlife and tourism, you start seeing certain areas of convergence. But I think I want to largely agree with Mheshimiwa Kirwa. It's more of a question of wastefulness It's more of a question of corruption. It's more a question of how much money these people are having out of the national exchequer, funds that flow to address personal needs and interests around those who serve in the various capacities, rather than addressing the overall national good. That is where we should be going. And I think there does exist a symbiotic relationship between the president and the ministers. Clearly, when you look at the persons who have been appointed to those ministerial positions, they are people who add certain political value before you even come to the technical, technocratic concerns. There will be people who are representing or seen to be representing certain region in a very almost symbolic manner, without necessarily really taking any benefits to the regions as such, and therefore more a question of optics. But yes, people who are with him during the campaigns, and I think every other president everywhere in the world would be appointing to cabinet people who not only bring technical value, but who also give him political mileage. We cannot begrudge him that. However, in the balance, there must be more of the technical value. There must be also other ethical and social values that are brought to the table. Not these happy-go-lucky kinds of people that that we keep on seeing, fellows who want to show you the kind of watch they are wearing when they go to a meeting. They seated like this so that you can see that it is the latest state of art. Chronometer from a Swiss holograph shop, that they are more interested in going to Little Red to buy 4 suits at 20 million Kenya shillings, and you know very well what their salary is, that you are talking about a CS who is having challenges with externalizing $200 million through Dubai.
Was it shillings or dollars?
Dollars.
Shillings. I thought shillings.
It was dollars.
Dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was in dollars.
I'm worried more.
Yes, a lot of money, mister. So don't joke. It's not the days when you are there, Mheshimiwa Kirwa. This is a new dispensation. So I think that is the area that we should be talking about. Yeah? That are we going to curb the theft that sometimes is deodorized as corruption? Are we going to see more responsibility within those spaces? Because you could also make it so thin that it doesn't really serve the overall good of the country. And I do think that His Excellency the President has taken far too long. I expected that when he was addressing the country, particularly the second time that he was going to speak to that, he was going to ask the entire cabinet to resign, even if he intended to bring back 2 or 3 of the people. You begin by asking, because the situation that we have had has been very out of the ordinary. And for you to be able to arrest it, you need also to do something that is completely out of the ordinary. The shock treatment, the shock doctrine, say that in the light of all these things about which you are, first of all, yourself very empathic, taking a humanist approach, we are going to have far-reaching changes, and I'll be announcing them as we go along. But for a start, I have requested all my cabinet secretaries to resign. And there's a valid reason, as I conclude, that this bill has been processed through the cabinet. the cabinet should have advised the president about the dangers ahead. They should have been able to see that this was a powder keg and advised the president about that. If they advised him and he didn't listen, then he is the problem. I will assume for the time being that they did not advise him, because I didn't see any one of them stepping aside. If you are an advisor to somebody who refuses advice, and you've been there for 19 months, 20 months, then there's nothing that you are doing in that space, and the damn thing is that you step away. So from the cabinet, therefore, I expect that the president will be looking at the majority leadership in parliament, and especially in the National Assembly, that they have also been a liability to him and to the country. And perhaps it goes, as we stated earlier, to the speaker.
To the speaker. All right, for the National Assembly or both houses?
As he said last week. Yes, he said last week.
He said last week, yeah.
Of the National Assembly, we said last week, one of his roles is to be of value to the president.
All right.
And to tell the president that this one here,
it's a powder keg.
Does not look good.
It's going to explode. All right, let's hear from Professor Kindiki as well.
Yeah, first is to thank the president for taking the concerns of Gen Zs with a lot of seriousness. And this has helped us actually to, as the whole country, to contain the situation because it was almost going out of hand. And reducing the cabinet to 14 or 15 or 16 is not the major issue, because the Constitution allows that, allowance between 14 to 22 maybe cabinet secretaries, and the president in his own wisdom knows the needs of the country and what ministries he would like to work with, which to merge, which to leave them independent. And I think that one we can give it to the president, and in his wisdom and in his office he'll be able to know what to do. But actually my concern is on the operational stage, because cabinet secretaries deal with policy matters. And at that level, they are not on the operation ground. So maybe as a cabinet secretary, would like to take a certain function in the ministry. And when it goes to the departments, and when it goes to the officers who are in charge of operations, I think that's where the mess comes in. Because even if you are the cabinet secretary or you are above the cabinet secretary, like the deputy or the president, some of the people who are working with you may undermine your policies, even if you have very good policies, if you are not very careful. So what I think the president could also, they look into the issue of the operation area, especially who are the people heading state corporations. We know them, and that really support the ministries. Because even if you are a cabinet secretary for whatever ministry, and you have 5 departments or 6 departments, and those who are heading those corporations, they have a lot of they are not capable of running those institutions. It will affect you directly. So for me, let the president in his own wisdom try to look at areas that need to be merged and the ones that they need to stay as they are. And I'm sure going forward, the area of operation as an issue. That's why, for example, you have heard people saying that they are buying very expensive things, they live in luxuries and all that. It's not really the office of the president who dictates what you should buy and whatever. It is upon every state officer to be responsible and take responsibility. So what are you showing the people when you buy furniture, as an officer of billions of shillings, when school children in your area they have no food. They don't have lunch. They only have maybe 1 meal a day. And you are very comfortable with, living lunch. And there's nothing wrong enjoying your wealth. But there's something pretty wrong when you enjoy and show it off even to the people whom you are leading. So that's my major concern. And the other thing,
add there, you are ill-gotten wealth.
So that when you're enjoying it, at least there's no crime in enjoying your wealth.
That's what I'm saying. There's no crime in enjoying your wealth.
If you've earned it correctly.
If you earn it correctly, but
this is a very serious conversation. When Professor says there's nothing wrong in enjoying wealth, he mischaracterizes what wealth is. Wealth, there's a route to getting wealthy. It is a product of productivity, is a product of investment, and therefore you can reap out of it. And so wealth in itself is not what we see. When somebody is taking 20 million to a fundraising, that is not a wealthy person.
It's loot.
They normally say wealth.
But we have said there is no
but
that's not wealth.
It is loot.
Yeah.
It's loot. And loot is nothing to do with
I didn't want to go to the subject of looting. Looting, because I don't know the source of that money. But we are saying, because we don't know the...
looted, Professor.
Yes.
We know your salary. We have seen someone
Grace Nganga has just given us an exact breakdown of how... our reporter there.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let me finish, and then I think you'll be the next person. You'll be the next person you can give
He
a
never
report.
wore a watch of 2 million shillings in his hand.
We don't support, people buying watches of 20 million. But if I have money and I buy a watch, I should not
have looted.
Yeah.
But you see, we are different. There are people who wear a suit of 7,000, others could be 10,000, others 20,000. So if we go to an extent of even examining what you wear, what you put on, what you eat, I think that is not the right way to go.
What is the right way to go?
But you see, this
Bill
is
Gates,
an
the
individual
billionaire,
who
comes
could
here in
not
a
sit
jeans.
like this. Then now he's
You
certainly...
want people to wear rags. You want people to wear rags.
money
You
and
want
not
people to
flossing.
wear rags to prove that they...
Professor,
People have made money and not
cannot
flossing
speak
it.
for
No,
us.
I'm not talking about corruption.
Can you
and
let
I'm not
Professor
talking
have his
of
head?
looting.
Let him have his head. Let him
That's
finish.
a different subject altogether. I'm saying if you have your wealth, there's nothing wrong enjoying your wealth in the right way. So issues of how you got the wealth is not
matter.
No, it matters. But it's not the subject that I wanted to discuss today. That is a different subject altogether. We can examine how did you get your wealth, how much you earn, what have you done to get that
This
wealth.
is what Gen Z
but
are
I'm
calling
just
for
trying,
an audit.
but what I'm saying is that, you see, the challenge here is, the problem here is that there are people who have been profiled. And some of them might have got the wealth in the right way. If it may not be too much.
Let's get out of
We're a
that.
few months ago.
We'll do an audit. Yeah.
Anyway, those who
When
are...
you talk about wealth,
Okay.
I've helped you to understand that there's none of those people who can be said to be wealthy.
You are not helping me. You're only spoiling what I'm trying to explain.
They declared their wealth.
And you want me to dwell in a subject which I didn't want to go into,
Okay, so
and to get in
can I have my
trouble
opportunity now?
with the
All right.
good Kenyans who are
Okay.
watching this show.
Okay.
I'm not talking of wealth. And actually, corruption is bad, and it must be condemned with the strongest terms possible. There is no way we can encourage that. And I'm not encouraging that we should have corruption. But I remember in another show we talked about corruption, and they said this is the root cause of some of the problems we are facing in this country. And we're not condoning it. But I'm saying where somebody has earned his wealth correctly.
16
Maybe I
months.
have only one car, and I'm not talking of those 16 million, whatever. I have one car, you have a simple house, you have whatever. That is your wealth. And we can't all be equal.
All right.
Yeah, we can't all be equal.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's I'm talking
okay,
on
I
that
agree.
on
I
that
agree.
level.
Some
We can't
people
talk.
have the capacity to make billions within 16
Yeah, but those
months.
with billions,
Yes.
then they can be interrogated how they
So-
got the billions.
Yeah, we all
and we have nothing wrong with that.
we all endowed
and we
gifted
condemn that
differently.
with the
Yeah.
strongest terms
Yeah.
possible.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
It's a fact.
You've established. We all
Yeah, if you
endowed
have your
and
own
gifted
investment,
differently.
we are doing it because we need also to protect, and that's what the
No,
problem
we're
is.
not,
you,
we're
thank
not
you,
here to
thank you, Prof.
protect. Who are we protecting?
All right. All right.
I'm here to protect. If you are not protecting, to protect good citizens in this country. They are good.
Well, may I have my
Not
day?
everybody who is bad. The bad ones, there is a machinery and procedure of dealing with them. And don't put those words into my mouth. I haven't said that. But Debar, allow me to.
You will come back to you. I think you've taken a.
No, just one. They are the ones who have interrupted.
Okay.
They have taken my time.
You are derailing his thoughts.
They have taken my time.
Yeah, it's written down.
Even before I say something, they are reading my thoughts, and then they start adding things that I have not said. Debar, and I think I need to.
Okay, I'm doing a sloppy job. Let me protect you, please, gentlemen.
They are Kenyans like me, and we're in a round table discussing, and I need protection because you are the moderator of this discussion.
Thank you.
I'm very serious with what I'm trying to say because this affects us. Because we cannot profile all Kenyans and say all Kenyans are corrupt. That's what I'm saying. Some Kenyans are good, others are corrupt, and that's normal within a society. And we are saying the bad ones should be dealt with according to the law, and the good ones also should be encouraged to continue doing good. Simple as that. That's what I'm saying, Debar. And then I have said that let's also not concentrate so much at the national level, even the county government level. We should also concentrate because there's a lot of corruption, a lot of mismanagement, and a lot of wastage also in the county level.
Let's not go off on a tangent because I think we are looking at the cabinet. We're looking at the cabinet.
We are at the national level. So let's
but you cannot look at cabinet in isolation.
No, we'll come to that, Prof. We'll come to that. Thank you.
Anyway, may I stop there?
Yeah, please.
Because the challenge I'm facing this morning
Isabel
is that
working.
you are reading my mind, and the people have already.
You are digressing.
They are mind readers. So if I'm not a mind reader myself, they are mind readers.
Well, may I have a
say stop there because I don't deal with the reading of the mind of the people. I give points as they are.
Will you desist from reading Professor Kifuki's mind?
A professor of law is trained to be a mind reader, then that's another subject. I've never been to a class of mind reading. And I'm sorry, I read books, I read what people say, I judge them with what they have said.
Professor is out of order.
But if they are reading the mind and then they read interpretation, I forgive them. Because that's a different philosophy and different subject of mind reading. Thank you, Debar.
Debar, now you better.
Mind readers. These are mind readers, Debar.
Let me take a tissue here.
I read books. I read books. Professor, I don't read minds. I read books. I study books. And I listen to what people say, and I judge them to what they have said. But when Daktari is a mind reader, that's a very advanced standing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can continue reading the mind.
I think
I'm not a mind reader.
I think today Professor has gone off a tangent.
That's okay.
No. This is an abduction of a debate.
Yeah, this is abduction the debate. It's running away with it. We are at a national level debate, and what we are saying is this, and I want to go on record, that it's not about the cabinet, it's not about reshuffling of the cabinet. No. That is not what we are saying. Last week we said here that we have a crisis, and it's Ram Emmanuel who said that never waste a crisis. And others have said that a tragedy presents a choice. And so we are in a place where there are choices. The laziest choice is to say it's the cabinet that has failed. I don't know what we have been listening to, but having listened to the president's debate on Sunday night, having listened to his statements across, number one, he has not faulted the finance bill up to now. In fact, he says that the proposals in that finance bill, apart from borrowing of 600 billion, it was going to bring in an on-source revenue of 346 billion. And he's regretting because then that money now has to be borrowed. So he's saying the effect of the finance bill collapsing is the net borrowing now of about 900 million or close to $1 trillion. That's what he's saying. So the president hasn't said that Wetangula did a bad job as a speaker or Ichung'wah did a bad job as the majority leader. No. In fact, he went on record and said that those guys who voted yes are heroes. And that is on record. He said that in the interview. So my problem is that has the president learned anything from this tragedy? And my answer is no, he hasn't. In fact, he's saying that these goons and the political protests are the ones that have brought all these things. Has he heard the Gen Z? He has not. He's trying to explain everything, and in some of his explanations that he's giving, he's proving the same point. One, the results he's explaining that he has gotten, nobody wants those results. So we're not saying, the young people are not saying you have not worked, or the things you have done are not producing results, but they're saying the results you are talking about are not the results, they're wrong results. One, when they're telling you they have no jobs, you are telling them, but the housing levy is about jobs, and they're saying, okay, give us the statistics, who is having jobs there? They are telling you the economy isn't doing well, and they're saying, but when we took over, this was, the fertilizer was here, we brought it down. They're not telling you they're farmers, they're not. So you're giving them results, but you're not answering their questions. You're answering your own questions. So back to where we are. The cabinet we have today is not a cabinet we have seen before. It's not a Kibaki cabinet, it's not a Moi cabinet, it's not a Jomo Kenyatta cabinet. Indeed, it's not even the Uhuru cabinet, where he went for technocrats and there were people who were brought in. Again, later on, lessons taught them, even together with Ruto, that you need also some level of political experience in cabinet. So from technocrats, the next 5 years, they went for a few people with political experience. And if you can remember, the current president wasn't very much in favor of that. In fact, he was against the politicians that were brought into cabinet like Charity Ngilu and others. So consistently, what the president has done when he took power is to get a cabinet that he thought was right. Technocrats here, people that he believes can deliver and so on. So when the finance bill fails, it's not to the cabinet you go back to, it's to himself. Because and by the way, he hasn't told you that it failed. He has said this thing was okay. In fact, that's what we needed. So if you say chop the cabinet, that is not the solution that will help us go. The solution here is, what have we learned? What is it that the youth are saying? So the opulence that people are talking about, waste and corruption that is being talked about, requires a very surgical approach that goes back to, again, the president himself. He said that you can run this country with a budget of 2.9 trillion. And he said anything else above that was unnecessary. He took it from 2.9 to 3 point something, and he was now taking it with the finance bill to 4.2. So then the question is, does he understand what it takes for this country to exercise austerity measures? Would he do it? And if he was to do it, what does he need to do? So if you are in a situation that you are in at a personal level, you are running a house, you are running a family, and debt is your problem, the first thing you go to is cut your costs. You tighten your belt. You don't look for other places to get money from. You don't look for borrowing. You don't go worsening the situation. We are in a bad place. The best we should do for ourselves is hold back, increase nothing, do the minimum. For example, the constitution says that cabinet is between 14 and 22. Make sure if you can do to 15, you do 15.
The leaner the better.
The leaner the better. Because what you are doing is you are saying you don't have the resources. But what are we doing? We want to have CAS, the chief administrative secretary. Instead of even 22, because we are saying they are deputizing cabinet, you are going to 50. What is the rationale behind 50? So the points that I want to really come to is to say, wait a minute. Last Supper, this is a non-issue. This is a side issue. The question is, has the president, have we as a country learned anything? The youth were not saying they do not want finance bill. No. They were saying there were taxation measures that they were against. And some of us have said that land, sanitary, whatever it is that the measures were applying were wrong. But there's also something that Okiya Mtata is saying, that we have done two things that are supposed to be connected, which we never did. The other day he signed the appropriation bill. What are you appropriating? When the finance bill you have rejected it. So you're actually saying, let's go on and finance. And did he have to sign a 12 months appropriation bill at that stage, or there was an alternative to the constitution? There is. The constitution says that in the event of no appropriation bill, the government has 6 months to work with the budget on the basis of the previous budget, even as it negotiates. So it wasn't a rush to do so. But As it is signed. So appropriation bill has been signed, the finance bill has been rejected. So that what will happen is that you will still spend on what you have appropriated at the rates at which you have designed, at the budget levels that you have estimated, and you need to borrow. You will borrow, and you'll do it now. You'll borrow the rest. So you'll end up financing at the point of that finance bill without the bill, because there is an appropriation bill. So what we act now, what we are simply saying is, wait, we aren't getting our ducks in a row. There's a way in which we are playing. It's
a panya game. Wanasema panya auma huku,
yeah,
yuwavuvia. Right, so that is. But I wanted just to.
So I hope, Prof, you have heard something.
Yeah, you see,
when I listen to you sometimes, I wonder whether you are in the same country.
Yeah.
He has made so many things.
He's learning.
He's learning, and he should be learning also when I'm talking to give me adequate time.
Yeah.
Even if I make a mistake, he can note them down and then respond thereafter, rather than stopping me, because I've not stopped him. Right. He has said so many things I don't agree with him, but I've given him the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
But he is right.
So you cannot, when I just open the mouth, you read the next sentence. Read it is like the artificial intelligence,
all right,
which is not fair.
All right, let me get back to
this is a national conversation debate.
Thank you, Prof.
And whether
he's taking it.
Whether he likes my idea or not, he just to listen to me, then note down, and then respond.
All right.
He has said so many mistakes, and he thinks he's right, but he's not right.
But don't take it to heart. Don't take it to heart. This is just a discussion program.
We cannot disagree.
We cannot agree to disagree.
But don't get angry.
But
yeah, all right, okay. I wanted just to ask the question, because now you pointed the fact that what we're seeing, especially with the cabinet secretary, there was a lot of balancing act that the president had to do at the end of the day, and what the coterie of the cabinet secretary we see, could it be that is for the political posture? Behind, we have another back channeling politics of kitchen cabinets that are there, the advisors, that we actually stashing almost $1 billion shilling to sustain these advisors. So we have the political posturing of the cabinets. This is for political expediency. And now we have the real technocrats, who are the main advisors. Because we've had people complaining that the cabinet is passing, or they have that, what they call it, the gastric bypass. So this is just the gastric, but you have now the main organs which are running the government as it is right now. Could you talk about that particular bit? Because also the budget that really goes there is really unwarranted. If this is a sort of advisory, or the advice they're giving to the president, and it's just, leaving eggs on all over his face.
Yeah, Debal, I may not want to speak on cost of certain unit offices, but I still wanted us to assist the president to look at this issue of cabinet holistically. And I want to choose to give recommendations. Personally, from what Barack said, he was almost suggested the president should retain 1 or 2 ministers. Personally, I think that would be wrong. It would be wrong in the sense that the president should not deface the national outlook that we see today in his cabinet. If I was to make a recommendation, at least 10 of the ministers should be retained for purposes of continuity. He can add 3, he can add 4, he can add 5, whatever the figure, but 10, because I know most of these people, I worked with them, and they are not useless as people think. But I still want to beseech the president to stay back, to allow ministers to work. Number 2, I want also to beseech him that because he is hands-on, and possibly is also a reader of the mind, to have subcommittees that will be distilling a number of issues, such that whatever gets to him has been distilled by subcommittees. And it's very easy to arrange the subcommittee of the cabinet, which are not considered to be cabinet meetings, they are subcommittees of the cabinet, so that it spends less time dealing with issues that have been distilled at a lower level. And also respect that process, that it was informed by technical people and also by people with experience, and there was a bit of infusing of politics. Because what I see in Kenya is that we want to go for blood. That yes, the president sacks 22 people. What does it mean to him politically? It has huge ramifications. Some people may be useless in the office, but they're useful on the ground. But that is not where I want to focus on. He also needs to do serious human resource audit. And in human resource audit is to look at the offices which are non-constitutional. And I've heard that he's almost dealing with 1 or 2. Starting with all these spouses, all the way even to the county. Dealing with offices that don't exist, like that of Prime Cabinet Secretary. Let Musalia Mudavadi be given a substantive office, which he already has, as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora. Now, also deal with the challenge of having to have so many advisors. You can have advisors, and I think that's allowed. But so many advisors, some of them we know. If that is the role advisor plays, like that of David Indi, then that is a destroyer of government. Because some of the statements he tweets to the public is something that is repugnant with the normal thinking of a Kenyan. And part of William Ruto's problem has not been him. I always say is a micromanager, and he needs to pull back to allow other brains to work for him to receive the final product, process it, and deliver to the public. But his main problem is that he has a number of individuals who behave as if they are part of the presidency, who behave as if what we are calling in Kibaki 1, make-believe individuals who pretend they know the president better than any other minister. And these are individuals who are tweeting, who are making statements that make the public get annoyed with the president. And yet they never gave the president those votes. The president won most of the votes. Whatever people think, perhaps 80% of the votes came to him because of the effort he put on the ground. 20% might have come by association with certain individuals which are popular on the ground. But many of them had a free ride using the president and the party at that particular time. So these are things that worry me, Dibal, and I'm looking at it as a way of resolving this crisis, because many people don't see that we are on the brink of a political disaster. That is the brink that I want us to run away from and allow this transition to the next election. Yep.
All right. Barack, would you speak to also the coterie of advisors as the back channel politics that is happening as well? Who are the main organs? It seems that the cabinet secretaries also, they're just twiddling their thumbs because the opinion is not sought for or sought after.
Cabinet secretaries, by and large, should be knowledgeable in the spaces in which they operate. And that should be one of the primary considerations. But even their competence and knowledge can also be validated or sometimes counterbalanced by professionals. You see, when you look at the architecture and design of government as we have it in a country like ours, and I suspect in many other places, you have got at least 2 very clear distinctions. You have got the public service, which is a perennial entity. There are people we can call career public servants. They were there in the Moi years. I'm very sure there are some people there today. A few who are there in the Moi years. They were there under Kibaki, they were there under Uhuru, and they are there even today under President William Ruto. Those are very key people. They have got knowledge, they have got the institutional memory, they have got the technical know-how, and they are people who should be listened to. I doubt that they are being listened to today, and a lot of them have pulled back. They are probably waiting for the next dispensation. And they have acquired motto, which they probably don't state. They support any government in power. And when you get there and you're willing to tap from them, you're willing to listen to them, they will help you and you will perform very well. I think President Mwai Kibaki certainly did that. Then the other layer is this, the upper crust. That is the executive and executive appointed, and that is where you have these advisors that we are talking about. In a normal, good, functional environment, they are useful. They will validate some of the things that the public service is doing. And remember, when you come as the executive, as the elected political dispensation, you have first your manifesto, then you have got your development plans and programs, which these are the people who are going to actualize, to interpret, the people called the public service. So you must bridge. And there's a sense in which the advisors that you bring on board will help in that bridging of your manifesto, your agenda, with the activities that the public service is then undertaking. As the advisory we have had done a good job, I doubt. I've been seeing also, as Kirwa says, some of the tweets and posts that David Ndi, for example, has been making, and they only help to generate disaffection. I still think we need some advisors. I think also that the ministers should be allowed to work. There's a lot of overreaching. Sometimes His Excellency the President bypasses even the ministers to go straight to the civil servants. And I think that generates fear and generates some level of ineffectiveness. Remember, there were the children of Israel who said to Moses, you go and talk to God and then come and talk to us. Let God not talk to us. We are very frightened when God talks to us. So the president should allow the people he has to work.
The lay down protocol and bureaucracy.
Also give himself some buffer zone. For example, if he's the face of everything, the spokesperson of everything, he exhausts the buffer space. There must be some room even for denial of some of the things that people are doing and saying. A fuse of sorts. And he removes that fuse and takes the direct body blows himself.
Indeed. Right.
Just allow me to
No, we need to take a short break. I need to set o'clock on the nose. We have to pay the bills as well. We'll circle back with you, sir. So we take a short break as we continue with the conversation. And then when we circle back, of course, we shall continue to pick up on this as well. We've heard from our panelists that the president cannot also be all over the map regarding even opening a cattle dip commissioning, so that at least the aura of the president is respected at the end of the day. We take a short break. Don't go away.